and we support, their efforts.
It's in regards to Abbott districts,
Right.
basically. It's in
Abbott
regards
district,
to Abbott
right.
districts, that the funds from the state should be evenly dispersed and not one.
But why does this council have to be voting on this?
No,
It was
it's a
just-
courtesy vote.
I see, okay.
Support.
That's all.
All right.
Motion, please.
Thanks, Bob.
Ready?
Motion, please.
Alrighty. I move for approval of 2011-209 and ask for a second.
Second.
Mr. Calver.
Yes.
Cozio.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Armstead.
Yes.
Cosby Hurling.
Yes.
Sadowski.
Yes.
Sheehy.
Yes.
Yemakaitis.
Yes.
Frazier.
Yes.
Purcell.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Ask for a motion on 2011-210.
That's not on there.
No, we voted for that.
211 and 212.
211.
Mrs. Wolverton.
I'll keep it short since it's getting late, but I just wanted to say what a good job that Ron Stefanowitz is doing for this city at the incredible bargain price of $65,000 when you consider that people in his position in other towns get anywhere from $67,000 to about $125,000 just in salary. If you also compare it to what SIDS gets, look at the total there, $124,277. That is for one committee. This $65,000 is not his salary, it's everything that he has to do. It's a full-time job, he puts in many hours, and it will bring in millions of dollars in ratables. So, and Ron has such an extensive background. He does a wonderful job, he works hard, and he works well with the business community. I was at the caucus yesterday, and there were many business people here saying how hard he works and how easy it is to work with him. And one of the ladies made a comment, Mrs. Garcia from Infinium, said that she gets offers and some of the other businesses all the time, and that they could easily leave the city, go somewhere where the wages are less and tax rates are lower, but they want to stay. And it's because of working with a person of his caliber. So I just want to say that I'm very grateful that Ron works for this city, and that pleased to pass this resolution.
Thank you. Mr. Noble.
Good evening, Councilor. It's getting close to good morning. Also, I'd like to show my support for this particular resolution. I was appointed to the LEDC many years ago when it was in its infancy stage by the late Mayor Hudak. At that time, our director was a gentleman by the name of Jay O'Donnell. Very nice young gentleman, recently graduated from college, worked very hard, but accomplished very little. You basically get what you pay for. That's all we could afford at the time. Any company coming into town really did not want to talk to a kid who was quote-unquote wet behind the ears. We then got Charlie Mancuso, who had a banking background and also a political background from another municipality. Charlie started to get the ball on the right court and moving along. Unfortunately, there was a personal disagreement between him and the administration at the time, and he subsequently left. We got Mike Bono, who tried to continue in Charlie's role. At that point in time, I also had a disagreement with certain members of the administration, so I left the LEDC. I had a 36-year career with General Motors. My last assignment was site manager in charge of the closure, sale, and demolition of the facility. During that time, I was involved in the working with the prospective bidders on the purchase of the site. So we had, I think it was approximately 8 or 9 people come through that were looking to buy the property. I gave them site tours of the facility, but invariably they all asked, who do I talk to in town? So I hooked them up with Mayor Gabonka and also Ron Stefanowitz. And every person came back and said they were very satisfied with the service they got from Mr. Stefanowitz on showing them the good points of Linden and why they should move to Linden. And ultimately, successfully, we ended up selling to Duke. I'm a former past president of the LIA. Ron reports to us every month at our membership meetings. In fact, he was there this morning. Ron has definitely tried to set a strategic vision for what Linden should be doing, what are the things that the city needs to continue to nurture the business environment He works very well with all the people that are currently employers in town, and he also is very good at opening doors for prospective people coming into town to get the contacts they need to make things happen. Unfortunately, we have a very rough economy right now, and not many people are wanting to invest, but when things change, Linden is poised to do a lot of good things, so I definitely support the resolution to support the LEDC. Thank you.
Motion, please.
Discussion, Council President?
Mr. Colibus.
Koziel.
Cosio.
Mr. Malik, did you want to speak? I'll defer.
I just wanted to add two things to what the other people were talking about. I have to agree that this LEDC is very useful. I also wanted to say that I'm on the Strategic Vision Committee, and I was not aware of a lot of the things that the city was really involved in, things that Ron was doing. And I just hope every council person has a chance to read this, because there's excellent work in there, and kudos to that project being worked on. The other thing is, when I raised the issue before about expenses, you have your salaries and you have your expenses, I'm just appalled that the $65,000 is not broken into a salary and expenses, because I know Ron has a lot of expenses, and this is a shame. I mean, you're talking about, when we were discussing the budget, or when Mrs. Sachs was talking about the budget, at times expenses 30%, maybe 50% of was included. And here, we don't, just imagine if we would parlay or use that same kind of ruling for expenses here, $65,000, they'll dwindle this down to nothing for a salary. So I just think that we should have had this broken down into two components, a salary and an expense.
Thank you for your comments. Discussion on the floor?
Thank you, Council President. Two things became very clear to me last night. We had a chance to meet with Mr. Stefanowitz, and the first is, we don't see enough of Mr. Stefanowitz. I think part of the issue was, we live in a world of instant gratification, and we need to see things happen immediately. We're anxious. We as council people see needs in our wards. We want to see things happen. We take great efforts, and I think when we hand certain things off and we, rely on other people, we want to see things happen almost immediately. Mr. Stefanowitz, if I may, Ron, had a few people come out on his behalf last night, very respected members of the business community. One I hold especially in very high regard, and I respect this woman very much. I had an opportunity to catch her one-on-one, and what she had to say about your efforts was astounding, and that meant a lot to me, and it said a lot to me. So after a lot of thought, and I reached out to several council people and the mayor this morning, I'm going to support the resolution. I would like to see more of you. I would like to see more reporting from you. I think what we need to see is progress. I know when I have an opportunity, I work full-time. When I have an opportunity, I will stop in and we talk, and maybe that's not enough, but if we see you at monthly meetings and we see a sheet with progress and see from month to month some progress, little things that happen, phone calls, permits that are getting done, I think it will give everybody a better idea of what you do and how you do it. So I just wanted to say that. I mean, sometimes you see things, sometimes you don't, but it became clear to me last night, and again, certain things were said by certain members of the business community I didn't really appreciate, but some were very sincere, and especially that one woman, she spoke very highly of you, and I respect that, so I will support the funding.
Mr. Brown.
Thank you. Last night, I want to thank Ron for coming out, and your supporters that came out as well, and the people who are speaking out for you today. A lot of people have a lot of good things to say about Ron, and I'm going to piggyback off Councilman Koziel. We were talking about this today, is that we have a committee, I think it's the Revenue Redevelopment Board, and one of the ideas we were throwing back and forth is, this board that hasn't met yet, how this board can meet more often with you, and how the city of Linden and the council, what we can do to help support you. One of the things that you mentioned yesterday was that, you're doing a lot of this work on your own. Well, what is it that the city of Linden can do more? Or how do we create more dialogue? And I think that's what we need to do moving forward, is especially since we already have a board or commission in place, I think that's the good starting point, that we need to do to move forward. So I'm supporting this resolution as well.
Discussion. Motion. Please.
I move for approval of 2011-211 and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbus.
Yes.
Koziel.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Armstead.
I'd like to preface my my vote. I'm just very happy that some of the individuals who were so against Mr. Stefanowicz have all of a sudden done a 360. You know what I mean? It's
180.
I'm very happy to see that they did a 360, and I'm going to be looking forward and trying to figure out, what occurred, And I know it had a lot to do with your presentation last night, Ron, but I suspect there may be some other things that are going on here in the background, like I always mention. So my vote is yes. Thank you.
Cosby Hurling.
Well, I'll tell you why I changed my mind. Because I was voting no all the way, every time, right? I changed my mind because there's going to be accountability now. We're going to be able to get a return on our investment, and if we don't, there's going to be a consequence. That's the reason I'm voting yes. You can't just throw them away, so we're going to give them a chance at least, to do the things that we ask. So my answer is going to be yes. I don't have a job or anything waiting.
Thank you.
Or anything like that. See how you cut me off?
You're abusing the man.
I'm really not. I'm just saying, because he's so used to me saying no.
Sadowski.
I vote yes. I'm just glad they came back from Hawaii. That's all.
Sheehy.
I vote yes on the 65,000. I vote no on the 4,000.
It's one
The
resolution.
man wrote 20 checks, and we're going to pay an accountant $4,000 to look at those 20 checks. I think my daughter's checking account would be more complicated than his. I don't see why we don't have somebody in this building or somebody that's sitting up on this dais to look at the checkbook instead of paying $4,000 to get 20 checks examined. So I vote yes on the $65,000 budget. Thank you.
Mr. Sheehy, it's one resolution, it's not separable.
Then I'm stuck.
Vote yeah.
Yes, sir. I vote yes on that resolution.
Yamakaitis.
Yes.
Frazier.
Well, most of the colleagues have qualified their vote. Ron, I've always supported you, and I always will continue. That's a yes. Thank you.
Purcell.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes, and Ron, I got to know you when I came on, and you presented this town with great ideas, and you just brought me into the modern world, the ideas that you had, the traffic control, and the studies that you've done, and I don't think we can pay you enough. And to have a couple council people go to class to learn how to bring ratables in versus the talents that you have, I think there's no comparison in the world. So my vote is yes for you, sir. Twenty 2011-212, Mrs. Malik. Mrs. Malik. Left the chamber.
12, she's right there.
She's right there.
212, did you want 212? Did you want 212? He wanted 212, Jimmy.
Come on up, Paul. He's not on the list.
Hello, I'm Paul. I'm a friend of Bill W. And I'd like to know what the vote was last night on this resolution.
We didn't vote last night. It wasn't on the agenda last night. It's being voted on tonight.
Today. I received it today. I received it today.
Don't forget, we're... Well, hopefully we can vote on this. This is my neighbor, and when I put a call out to my neighbors and said to them, step up and contribute to the neighborhood, this young lady did. So I'm proud of her, and I hope that we can vote on her. She was the only applicant. Unfortunately, we hadn't received it before it was posted on the agenda. I know that the council president reached out to her, and remember that it has to go before the council, at least at the caucus meeting. We all received her application in our packet. Maybe we'll get you for something else if you're interested and you can serve the community in a different way.
Comment? Motion?
I move for approval of 2011-212 and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Kalbas?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling.
Yes.
Sadowski.
Yes.
Sheehy.
Yes.
Yemakaitis.
Yes.
Frazier.
Yes.
Purcell.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
Yes.
Mr. Council President,
Yes.
I'd like to introduce my resolution, which was from March, the original resolution for the extra sessions in our court. And I'll read it. I'll summarize it because all of the council members had this in March. We received another copy again last night. The resolution is amending and superseding a resolution authorizing additional sessions to the municipal court, whereas due to the increased number of summonses and proceedings being presented before the Linden Municipal Court, traffic violations having increased since 2009, and due to the overcrowding of the number of litigations in each court session, which currently exceed over 100 per session, in order for the court to continue to process all the persons appearing before the court in a manner that protects the constitutional and statutory rights of the citizenry, additional court sessions have been requested to be authorized by the municipal judge, and whereas the council has determined to authorize and budget for additional weekly sessions so the operation of the court and workload can be evaluated. This was approved, excuse me, in January, and we're doing this with a language change. Whereas the municipal judge is further authorized on a per diem basis to utilize additional judges that he has scheduled already, Marshall and Corbett, for the court's caseload at a rate of not more than $400 per court session, and whereas said additional per diem judges are required to be judges appointed and serving as judges of a municipal court in the county of Union. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Linden as follows. There are 7 points here. The first point is going to be that these additional sessions are going to total at least 8 per week. They are going to run through the end of the calendar year, being evaluated in 3-month increments as we were directed by the judge, the assignment judge. Point 2 is the approval of the assignment judge, which we did have, and she reviewed this before we got it, authorizing on a per diem basis to utilize additional judges to assist the court's additional sessions as set forth at a rate not more than $400 per session. Point 3, the municipal attorney in his capacity as a department head of the law department of the City of Linden is authorized on a per diem basis to utilize additional municipal prosecutors to assist with the court's additional sessions as set forth with the above rate of $300 per session for the additional court sessions. The municipal judge, point 4, the municipal judge in their capacity as sitting judges of the municipal court of the City of Linden are authorized on per diem basis to utilize additional municipal public defenders to assist with the court additional court sessions as needed, and at the rate currently set forth for alternate Linden municipal public defenders. And the said additional per diem municipal public defenders are required to be public defenders currently approved pursuant to the list of approved for public defenders in accordance with the request for qualifications. Point 5, the municipal judge in his continuing capacity as a department head of the municipal court is authorized to adjust and assign the court staff as may be necessary to assist the court's additional needed sessions, and should work with the Personnel and Finance Committee to to make sure that we have full coverage. Point 6, commencing July 1st, 2011, on September 30th, 2011 for the interim report, and on December 31st, 2011 for the final report. Expecting trials, the overall volume of cases, and other related operations of the city, so the municipal council and the judiciary can properly evaluate the operation of the court and the need for changes thereto or expansion of. And the final point is,
Madam Councilman, do you have copies for the audience,
the
please?
final, one second. The final resolution, the point is, shall take effect immediately, and the expanded court sessions shall commence immediately. So, these were all given in March.
Do you have copies for the audience to take a look at
Let me
for public
finish.
comment?
I read it. So if anybody has a
Every
comment,
other
it doesn't allow you to
resolution was
speak.
printed
Let me
and allowed
finish.
them to review it.
No, it's not. You get a synopsis of the resolution,
Will you
and
pl-
then we
do you have copies for
clarify.
them?
If anybody would like a clarification of what we just read, I'll be happy to clarify it for you. However, we spent a great deal of time on this already this evening. I'm seeking a second for this resolution.
I need public comment
Second.
first. Public comment, please. Mr. Lindsay?
When I came to the podium earlier about the question, I didn't know there was a dollar figure on this. I would like to know the dollar figure on the first resolution and the dollar figure on the second resolution. If it's a savings, or are we spending more money on this second resolution? Thank you.
We don't have a dollar figure. The first resolution was appointing a judge, 2008. The idea was to appoint Mr. Armstead's friend, okay?
Hold it.
And it was going to be for
Hold it,
$350 per session.
Councilwoman.
That was only going to add one
Stick to
session,
the
Mr.
point.
Lindsay. This is going to add up to 8 sessions per week, utilizing 2 judges who are quite familiar with the staff here, and they're very familiar with the courts. Not only that, they substituted here on a regular basis. So it's not like a flip-flop. They're not new, and they're not going to be floundering. This one, with you talking about how much is going to come in,
No.
Council
How much-
President?
how much we're going to come in, this is $90,000 if we use all the 8
Council
sessions.
President? Council President Moore?
Yes.
May I answer, Mr. Lindsay?
Yes, please.
In reference to your question pertaining to the municipal court resolutions, we had done an analysis, the Finance Personnel Committee, over the last 2 months. The resolution that was originally tabled back in March totals about $90,000 worth of additional sessions. What the Finance Personnel Committee had done was try to reorganize that with the resolution that was tabled earlier tonight. That would have totaled about $25,000. We decided in the Finance Personnel Committee, when we made the budget changes, there's only X number of dollars in the line item for municipal court for salary and wages and other expenses. This resolution that just got voted on, there's not sufficient funds in the municipal court to allocate that $90,000 in addition to the regular salaries that are being addressed and discussed as part of the municipal court.
So do you suggest that we table this again for 1 more month?
No.
I make a point of order that we do table.
Did you say point of order?
Thank you.
We
You
had
have a
motion
second,
on the
you have a
vote. We
second
have a
already, you
motion
got the
now.
vote.
We had a motion
Mr.
first.
Armstead?
I'd like to make some, we do have comment from the public at this point.
But,
And
yeah,
they're
let the
allowed.
public finish speaking, and then there's a motion and a second, and
And
we
then the
should
councilman
vote.
will talk
Well, we
to.
never had a list, so who would like to speak on it? Ms. Hero?
Mrs. Hero,
Pla-
Ms. Omar, Mr. Chartier. This is just too much.
First of all, I want to remind the public, as an officer of the court myself, although not in the state of New Jersey, that the point of a court system is to execute justice and to see that it is executed properly, not to raise revenue for a city.
I agree. But you want to do that and not have 145 people waiting, and then they get the shaft because they're being hurried out because the court session's about to close. And then they have to be rescheduled and come back. The fire department was called, Ms. Hero. It were too many people here.
There is nothing wrong with having more sessions for the court system. I just don't see why our current judge cannot do that. That's
Because the
what we're paying
Personnel and
him
Finance
money
didn't
for.
force him to until suddenly this month. This has been in existence since January. No one discussed the judge, the current judge, and getting more sessions on his own.
Personally, I would like to see this tabled and brought up next
I hear you.
session, in July.
Mrs. Ormond.
Mr.
I
Olmsted.
also, I'm not quite finished yet, I also like to know who are the two judges that you would like to see?
Judge Marshall and Judge Corbett. These are the judges that were presented actually to the mayor back in January.
Well, you already, isn't that this Judge Corbett? Okay.
And I spoke to them both today. And I explained that we're going to be introducing this today, and they both had no problem, and they understood that the schedule was coming forth once the vote came down. Again, we understood that 2011, 07, and 208 were coming off. And Mr. Armstead here sat here tonight. I said, well, should I request to have it removed? You said yeah, ask to take it off. So I don't want to be made to look foolish, especially when we had this conversation yesterday.
Does Judge Corbett live in Linden?
She lives in London.
Okay. Well, like I said, I would like to see this pulled, and let's discuss this in July, but we're already
We've been
going
going back
probably on our
since
latest
January.
council meeting.
Yeah.
Councilman Armstead.
Oh, wait, we got more people from the public, but I'll
Sorry, Paul.
Is budget in now or future?
The money that we were going to get in, as Mrs. Zach said, that there's no money in the budget right now for this, they're going to be paid off the revenue that comes in. You want to dispense justice, but at the end of the day, you can't do it with one session or two sessions during the day. We would get more day sessions as well as night sessions.
I suggest that, she's right, more day, because the courts are getting crowded now. Let's get justice done right. Vote on this motion right now.
Council President, I'd like to speak if I may. I have another speaker from the floor, Mrs. Ormond.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to know if I could get a copy of the verbiage of this resolution. In all fairness, and I do consider myself to be, somewhat intelligent, there was a lot that just came out real quickly, and I would like to read it also because I like to go word for word and digest it. And I also would just like to know these two judges that we are speaking of, if they're both Linden residents, and are they qualified, and is it going to be an extreme burden to the taxpayers?
But one of them lives in Linden, one lives in Elizabeth. They're highly qualified. Both of them have more than 10 years' experience each.
And
are they what?
Go ahead.
And I'd be happy to give you a copy of the resolution after it's voted on. You can get it from the clerk's office.
So once it's voted on, it's just a done deal, so...
I read it. Just like the clerk reads all the resolutions. We don't sit here every night and hand out resolutions. We clarify if you have
We
a
have an
question.
agenda that
So
we
if you have a
use.
question, you refuse to put it on the agenda.
And that's
So
my main
when
concern.
she's asking for a copy.
This man here has been ignoring me. I asked him a question. I asked to please let me speak or whatever. Just wait.
I do believe I have the floor. Can I finish speaking, please?
Sorry.
Yes, it should be typed out on an agenda. I mean, I'm part of an organization, and when we put forward information that the public needs to understand, it is typed out and legible on an agenda. And what was just sent to the public here was really a lot.
Do you have a question?
I would like to read it bit by bit, because like I said, it was just so much. I mean, I was like, oh my goodness. So I'd like to read it. And then my next question, these judges that we're putting forth, I mean, we mentioned that one was a friend of Councilman Armstead. Are these judges friends of anyone?
I'm familiar with Judge Marshall. As most of you are aware, he swore me in. I don't owe him anything, however, and when I presented his resume, his bio, to the mayor back in January.
So there's no personal relationship other than
No,
you just kind of
actually,
like know him and you swear you?
I'm his friend.
Okay, that's what
I'm
that's
his
all I asked.
friend.
That's all I asked, because
And-
if we're going to badger one person for mentioning a friend, we should hold it.
No.
It has to be the same for everybody.
I agree. I wasn't trying to badger Derek, but he made an insinuation here about there's some hidden agendas, and it's not mine. Because he's been here 18 years. He's never mentioned Judge Corbett's name. I'm here now, and I'm supporting two judges to come on, and she's one of them.
I want the litmus test just to be fair and equitable
I hear you.
amongst all
I hear you.
candidates. And if we're going to, like I said, mention that one person's a friend, we've got to be fair and hold everyone to the same degree of accountability. Thank you.
Councilman Armstead.
If I may, first let me state by saying that Carl Marshall, Judge Marshall, is a friend as well. Cassandra Corbett McGee is a friend. But the issue here is not whether Carl Marshall or Cassandra Corbett McGee is my friend. The issue here is dollars and cents.
That's not what you said.
Okay? And I mentioned to Mrs. Cosby earlier that I would be happy with my version, our version, the personal and finances version of how this should be handled, and you could put Judge Marshall and Judge Corbett's name on that particular resolution so that we could satisfy both of them, and we would, at the same time, be looking at this from a more economically prudent perspective. So, you know, the numbers are just too wide. The gap is just too large. And what we came up with and what your plan is, I mean, $90,000 versus $20,000 is significant. So if we're really sincere about saving money, okay, we can do both of it. We can have both of the judges, but I just think that we should try with the scaled back version, okay, see how it works, and then proceed.
I disagree. When he's done, can we vote?
Because there's more money.
No?
There's more speakers.
Councilman Moore, can I speak?
Yes. Mr. Mayor, you got the floor.
In the 5th Ward, Councilwoman has infinite wisdom. She is going to expend more funds based on this resolution than are appropriated in the budget for this resolution. And I'd like to ask council, if we do that, isn't that a 4th-degree crime?
He's so stupid.
Do we have a ruling from our attorney?
You cannot overexpend a budget line. That's correct, Mayor.
Then this resolution is going to overextend our budget line. So I'm putting everybody on notice, I'm not going to jail for this.
This is per diem, so we don't have to go over what we have.
So then why don't you cut it back 4 months and you could extend it?
Why don't we just vote?
Yeah, it's your way or no way, Rashana.
Council President, I just have a question.
Mr. Hudak, you consider this vote to be legal?
The vote is simply, the vote is on a resolution. The question is if there is an over expenditure, that's up to the department head and the committee. If the department head were to overexpend his budget, it is a problem. So I don't know what amounts are appropriated in there. I don't know eventually what amounts will be expended.
Mrs. Zach?
I just have a question, Council President.
Mrs. Zach, do we have the money? Treasurer?
Yes, Council President, if the resolution that was just voted on goes through till the end of the year, there will not be sufficient funds in the account based on extra 102 sessions, based on the calculations that we had done through personal finance.
I can't allow the vote.
It's going to be reevaluated in September. So in September, let's see where we are. And if the personnel and finance would have revisited the reduction in the judge's salary, as they said they were because it was a personnel and finance function, maybe we wouldn't even be having this conversation. So I'm inclined to ask again, please, can we vote?
Mr. Brown?
I'm sorry, I just have a simple question. As far as the numbers, I think 25,000, 90,000, what does that include? Does that include the salaries of the judges, or does that include police officers? I mean, Alexis, do you have a breakdown of where those numbers are coming from?
Councilman Brown, that includes the substitute prosecutors based on the number of court sessions. That includes the per diem basis judge at the rate of $400. That includes the court attendant that's willing to work extra sessions. There's also a calculation for a substitute public defender, which is not required at every session. We calculated that on a monthly basis. And there's also overtime calculations because the minimum requirement is of 3 clerical court employees. So that total $90,331.20.
Can we recap? Is there enough money for to fund this positions?
Council President, I explained that if the total amount of the sessions that are voted on is the additional 102 sessions, there would not be sufficient funds in the budget. However, the resolution that was voted on is voting on adding the additional sessions. It has nothing to do with the actual budget. I just want the governing body members to be aware there's only a finite number that was budgeted in the 2011 budget. And if every extra session occurs that they spoke about, we would not have sufficient funds. But the resolution they're voting on is just to add the additional court sessions.
Can I ask a question about the court Council President?
Sure.
Mrs. Zach, will the revenue that comes in not be allowed to support the salaries?
The revenue that we take in comes into our general revenue. We don't have it segregated and appropriated for that specific purpose. That's the total general revenues.
So would we not be able to?
No.
Support salaries?
No, at this point, you voted on the 2011 budget, and there's a certain appropriation assigned for municipal court, a certain salary and wages, and a certain other expenses. And that's the amount that we can legally go by for his budget.
Council President, I have a question.
Mr. Hudak?
Council
is this
President,
a legal
question.
vote?
Could you repeat that, Council President? I hear you.
Is this a legal vote?
Yeah, again, it's a legal vote. The issue is not the vote that the...
It's the money.
The money, the expenditure, and that may or may not occur. It's a future item. The council is being forewarned, and the department head should be fully forewarned that this is the amount of money he has, and he cannot exceed that.
Council President?
To do all 8 sessions.
Council President? Council President?
Yes, from the audience, comments from the floor?
Council President, I have a question. Why I'm again being ignored. I've been asked to be recognized.
No, you haven't been ignored. There's people from the audience who haven't seen... Excuse me, one person speaks at a time. The people from the audience have not seen a copy of this, and they have questions. We must allow the people to get the information they require.
You know, I have to say that I'm totally disgraced and disgusted by what's going on here. This is why we have a process. It is almost 12 o'clock, and here we are talking about a resolution that did not even go through proper channels to even be put on the agenda. It is the council president's prerogative as to how he make up this agenda, first of all. Second of all, to try and push, excuse me, Mrs. Rude Cosby Hurling.
Whoa.
Okay?
You don't have a question if you don't
Point of order.
That's what
Point of order.
Let
We
me
need
get
to let it
my
go.
comment out.
Stop that, Jimmy.
Councilwoman, please.
I would appreciate, as a taxpayer, wanting to add on $90,000 to a budget that was already passed, okay, to be able to read something. First of all, it pays for people to go to school and have an education and get a college degree before they start serving the public and talking about things that they have no clue about. When the city council sets a budget and they pass a budget, it is called a static budget. You stick with that budget until the end of that period. You do not have the luxury of creating a rolling budget, is what it is called. When you tell the people that you are going to spend a certain amount of money, that is the dollar amount that you are obligated to stick to.
Well, we had
Council
this since
President.
March. We had it since March, so you can talk to personnel and finance.
Council
'Cause
President.
we've had it since March.
Personal finance,
Mr. Brown.
we did look at it.
Council
We need
President.
to vote. This is it.
Hold up, there's questions. Mr. Brown has a question.
Thank you. I just want to clarify a couple of
I
things.
don't even understand.
The resolution that the councilwoman is presenting, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, Ms. Sack, is that it's not, there's a difference between a resolution that gets presented to appropriate funds. This isn't a resolution that's appropriating funds, correct?
Mr. Brown, this resolution is authorizing extra additional sessions. It is not appropriating any money. When you get resolutions that are appropriating money or awarding contracts, there is a line item referenced in that resolution as to where the funds are from. This resolution does not require a certificate of availability of funds, and it does not require a specific appropriation. It's within the general budget, it's within the department's purview and legal obligation to make sure it stays within its budget.
So does this, by passing this resolution, forget the hypothetical, but if you pass this resolution, and hypothetically, if there's no extra sessions, this is not going to increase the line item, correct?
I would assume that would be correct.
Okay, and now the second question is, in our budget, in the current budget we have here, can you, Ms. Zach, transfer appropriations from one line item to another line item? So therefore, you're not increasing
Yes,
the
Councilman
budget.
Brown, I had spoke to you in the caucus. We can do November transfers if we need to move money from a salary and wage account to another expense account.
But however, prior to November, can you move funds, do transfers from one
Not
salary to another salary?
From salary and wage to other expenses, no.
Go from salary and other expenses from salary to salary. So if, for instance, if I want to go from the salary of, let's just say, the law department to the salary of the court.
No, you would have to do that in November.
Okay.
I think that puts it to rest.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor.
You're treading on very dangerous water here.
What dangerous water? You just
The attorney just
moving forward the
indicated to us that
resolution.
it's quasi-legal.
You're moving forward the resolution. It doesn't mean you have to spend all the money. You could use it as many sessions as you want. Is that correct?
When they called.
Mr. Hudak?
Repeat that, please, I didn't.
Without expending all the funds that are in there.
Keep us out of trouble.
Yep. Again, it's the
Motion on
department,
the
it's the
floor.
department head's purview to watch his
Not
expenditure.
till we're
of
done
funds.
discussing. You're talking about possible illegal action here. I'm going on advice to the attorney. I want to get an opinion. You're going to have to...
Motion.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hudak, I didn't hear you answer.
No, nope. You've been here since January, then back in March, you had it, it's coming back.
Based
It's not even
upon
that serious.
one consultation here.
But talk to Jay, because he
If this passes, does it cost us any money?
No, is it
Not
legal?
unless the court uses the additional sessions.
But you can still pass this and not upset the budget.
Correct.
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 What I've said repeatedly is that you are authorizing the court to have additional sessions. If they don't have additional sessions, you do not spend any money. If they have additional sessions, the court can only have them within the amount that is appropriated in the budget.
And then
That's
about
what I just
November,
said.
you
If there is an issue in November, as Ms. Sachs said, there's always the ability to do transfers. That would again be up
Could
to
it be
council
funded
at that,
then?
that would be up to council at that time. That's the future, and
I mean, if they had the money.
if you have the
But
money.
prior
somewhere
to
else, again,
November,
that's
we'll
a
be out
crystal
of
ball,
money.
I can't give you. That's a decision in November.
Okay, but.
Council President,
There's no money.
Council President, question.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry. Did you acknowledge me? All right. So, Ms.
Okay.
Sack, I'm sorry. How much did we appropriate in the salaries for municipal court?
It's broken, Mr. Workmaster.
Oh, jeez. I know it's broken.
The total amount appropriated for municipal court for regular salaries is $712,500, and there was an appropriation for overtime of $60,000, for a total salary and wage line item of $772,500.
Okay. Now,
Mr. Chairman,
with that,
when you
with
make
that,
an
Speaker on the floor, go ahead, sir.
When you make an when you create a job, you make an appropriation.
You have to pay them.
You can't put something in the budget without, if you're going to pay for something, you can't put it without putting the money in there. Now, it's after the fact that the budget's been adopted, so you can't do that.
well,
Now,
if I could finish.
if you had done it before and you didn't have enough money, then you can make a transfer November 1st because it was unforeseen. You had appropriated sufficient funds to do the job in the judge's office for this year. But if it runs heavy that he needs to do additional time, and that happens to you now, you can then make a transfer from anyone, and I think the finance officer would support me on this,
November 1st.
from any account, choose that account to cover that shortage.
Can we do
If I
that?
could finish.
And right now, you folks should settle this in the conference session, not out here. Like,
Can we do that?
But
This
last
hasn't
question, I
broken.
wasn't finished,
This is,
Council
this is on the
President.
floor, it was from the agenda.
Council President, let me just finish my question, please.
Based upon
So,
Mr.
Council President, let me just finish
Former
my...
Mayor Workmeister's recommendation, can you transfer the money?
After November 1st.
Yes, after November 1st, you can do transfers.
Do we have enough
If
money
there's funds available.
to fund it until November 1st?
Again, I don't know what we're going to have November 1st. This is a very tight budget. The Finance Committee cut very close to every department's request.
I'm not going to conduct the illegal vote based upon what the attorney's saying.
But-
It's not an illegal vote. The
not
vote
illegal
tonight
vote.
on this resolution is just authorizing additional court sessions. It's not authorizing additional funds. If the judge has additional sessions and goes above what he has in his budget, that would be something that you cannot do.
Would we be able to
Can I
put a
finish?
rider in there indicating not to go over the budget?
There's no need.
Can-
There's a legal obligation of every city official, every department head to remain within their budget.
Yes.
Oh,
And so if I can finish.
All right, there's the answer.
Council President, let me finish, please, because I had a question I wasn't allowed to finish. So Alexis, correct, so did we budget the money in for the other resolution with, that was removed?
Yeah, the
Okay.
original, the resolution that was on the agenda as it was for tonight, the 207?
So we already included in the budget $25,000?
Yes.
correct, For the extra session?
Right, 13,000 was included in salaries because we were appointing a temporary judge as a salary, and 12,000 was added to the other service, professional services. That was for the prosecutor and the public defender.
All right, so 12, and so my point is this, is that whether it's one judge or two judges, Council President, is that, let's just say 0 sessions are held, no money's being sent. If you have two judges, and let's just say, I don't know, 10 sessions were spent, there's $25,000 that's in there. Nevertheless, they still can't go over that $25,000 that's already been budgeted in there for one person. So, well, you know, the hypothetical, the 90,000 is assuming that both judges are used from now to the end of the year. However, you can have both judges being used, and you have $25,000 in there now. It's not a guarantee that they're going to be used the whole year. This resolution is just simply saying that we're going to have 2 temporary judges in there. You have $25,000 that's been put in the budget to address this issue. So like I said, you can go from having no extra sessions and spending no money, and then you have a surplus of $25,000, or you can use up that $25,000 using 2 judges.
So come to $25,000, they'll have to stop work.
Well, basically, I mean, so like I said, so you can have 1 or 2 that, but $25,000 is still in there.
So at the end of the $25,000, they would have to stop the court sessions.
It's going to be revisited in September.
Mr. Armstead.
The problem is that the resolution that we worked on, Alexis in Personal Finance, the one that we worked on, it was a significant amount of we used less money, and we were going to try to utilize the judges and get a better gauge as to what was going to happen over a short period of time. Also, try to hold the judge's feet to the fire and make him attend more sessions because he was taking the summer off. We felt this was the most cost-effective way to address the problem, not to just go out there and blanketly throw time at the situation and hope that it would cure itself. You take small steps to figure out what the problem is. You just don't go out and throw a whole lot of money at it and think it's going to go away. You can get a better assessment and better gauge what's going on by doing it in a smaller way, and we felt the $25,000 approach was a lot better than the $90,000 approach. It was more economical. And again, I'm willing, with the resolution that came out of Personal Finance, I mean, it doesn't have to just be Cassandra Corbett. It could be the Judge Marshall as well. But I just think that we have to be prudent in our approach and look at it from a more economical standpoint.
Mayor,
Motion's on the floor.
information. If we go through with this, do you believe it's a 4th-degree crime?
Oh, my God. Did you call me? The attorney just made the clarification of what it is. You're just putting this in place. You could use 1 session, you could use 2, you could use 8. It's like in your household. If you have the money there, you'll spend it. If you don't, you cut back. So let's move on. It's almost midnight here. We discussed this. There is a second. Let's move with the vote.
Mayor, is it a 4th-degree crime?
It's a 4th-degree crime if it's overspent. I recommend let's move with the vote also, Council President.
Mr. Clerk, take the roll.
Mr. Kalbas.
Abstain.
Koziel.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes, this doesn't increase the line item.
Say yes, please.
Yes.
Let's keep going.
Armstead.
Yes.
Cosby Hurling.
Yes.
Sadowski.
Yes.
Sheehy.
No.
Yamakaitis.
Yes.
Frazier.
No.
Purcell.
Yes.
Mr. Moore.
No.
Let's move on.
All right.
Motion carries.
Yeah.
Ordinance on first reading. 5532.
An ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 7 Traffic shall be amended as follows. Section 7-33 Handicap Parking Regulations, 7-33.1A Handicap Parking on Street, add 1108 Bauer Street, 318 Garfield Street, and 2703 Parkway Avenue for 226 Madison Street.
The public's allowed 3 minutes to speak on the ordinances on first reading. Anyone who wish to speak on 5532? Seeing none, motion, please.
Motion?
Motion.
Can I, motion?
I need a motion on ordinance 5532.
Number 4.
I make a motion to introduce 4532 and request a second.
55.
Second.
Mr. Colobus?
Yes.
Koziol?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yamakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Purcell?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. 5533.
An ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 7 Traffic shall be amended as follows. Section 7-10 Parking prohibited at all times in certain streets. Add West Blanky Street South Side from the southwesterly curb line of Lumber Street to a point 71 feet southwesterly. West Blanky Street Southeast Side from the northeasterly curb line of Lumber Street to a point 58 feet northeasterly. Add Lumber Street northeast side from the southeasterly curb line of West Blanky Street to a point 35 feet southeasterly. Add Lumber Street southwest side from the southeasterly curb line of West Blanky Street to a point 32 feet southeasterly.
Any comments from the floor? Motion, please.
Make a motion to introduce 5533 and ask for a second.
Second.
Mr. Colobus?
Yes.
Koziol?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yamakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Purcell?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. 5535.
5534, a bond ordinance providing an appropriation of $250,000 for the acquisition of a sanitation truck with plow for the Public Works Department and authorizing the issuance of $237,500 in bonds or notes for financing part of the appropriations.
Any comments from the floor? Please come up.
Pat Hero, I just want to say that I hope this does get improved. It is, as Councilman Sheehy says, vitally necessary for the Public Works Department. Thanks.
Thank you. Motion.
Motion. Derek.
Somebody else?
Move an introduction, request a second.
Second.
Mr. Colobus?
Yes.
Koziol?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yamakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Purcell?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. 5535.
Bond ordinance providing an appropriation of $55,000 for the acquisition of computer equipment upgrade for the Finance Department and authorizing the issuance of $52,250 in bonds or notes for financing part of the appropriations.
Any comments from the floor? Motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President, I move an introduction and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Colobus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Pichelle?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. 5536.
Bond ordinance providing an appropriation of $38,500 for the acquisition of message boards for the police department and authorizing the issuance of $36,575 in bonds or notes for financing part of the appropriations.
Motion? Any comments on the floor? Motion, please.
Yes, Mr. President, I move for an introduction and request a second.
Second.
Mr. Colobus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Pichelle?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. 5537.
An ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 2 Administration shall be amended as follows. Delete Section 2-12.1 Department of Police in its entirety. Add new 2-12.1 Department of Police as follows, which eliminates the position of the Deputy Chief and increases the rank of Captain to 1 Chief, 5 Captains, 10 Lieutenants, 16 Sergeants, and 103 Patrol Officers.
Comments on the floor? Ms. Hero?
While I approve of the deputy chief position being eliminated, I wonder if maybe we could just hold steady on the rank of captains and not increase the rank of captains on this. I'd like you to think about that for next month. Thanks.
Motion?
Can't respond.
Mr. President, I move for an introduction, request a second.
Second.
Mr. Colobus?
Yes.
Koziel?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Armstead?
Yes.
Cosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski?
Yes.
Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis?
Yes.
Frazier?
Yes.
Pichelle?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes. Comments from members of the public in attendance. For city business only, no personal, political, or derogatory comments, not to exceed 5 minutes. Is there anybody who didn't get a chance to sign in the sheet yet? Sylvia Westerbrot, 429 Ainsworth Street. M. Broderick, Teamsters Local 469.
Thank you, Council President, Mayor, council members. Thank you for allowing me to speak here this evening. I will take back some of the accolades I heard this evening throughout the hours, back to the DPW members who have taken not only a second but a third year of no increase to assist the city of Linden in the interest of trying to move forward with your budgetary process and the distress of that process. I do have a couple of questions. One, we had some issues on savings that we had met with many of you, if not all of you, at the May 2nd of 2011 Executive Caucus. And we suggested some things to talk about, either with any member of the committee or the DPW committee, which seemed to be more appropriate relative to the merger, the acquisition of all the groups into one as a whole at the garages and savings just along those lines. That offer is still open to any member of this governing body and/or the committee that represents the DPW. We will make it for any time you wish, and we will have the necessary people there. We do have some members and representatives of the DPW here with me this evening. Also, there was one issue that did pop up. Just want to make mention to it as a savings for the city of Linden. We have a case now where we send people to a workman's comp doctor to be treated for injuries, and that doctor treats them through the injury process and the rehab process, and hopefully they return back to work at 100%. Well, before now they return back to work, they have to go to a second doctor in order to be brought back to work in the fashion desirable to the city. I can't see where the doctor who's treating is not going to make the same judgment call as its secondary doctor who also is going to be treating him. And it's a cost factor, a double cost factor for the city. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. My real issue up here this evening is some months ago, the Department of Public Works not only took another zero, but ratified a collective agreement. It was supposed to be on this agenda. I just want to know why it's not. The blue-collar contract was supposed to be on this agenda. I was told it was going to be on this agenda, and when I read through this, to my surprise, I stayed here till midnight to ask this question, why not?
It hasn't been finalized.
It is finalized. We're waiting for the you told me they were going to put this on the agenda tonight.
Yes, sir.
For finalize.
I didn't get a chance to finish finalizing with all the other things.
I would only ask, we're getting very frustrated. We're getting a lot of flack down at the garage. These gentlemen behind me are getting it on a daily basis. We've done this. We sat down. We've written out the entire agreement. Why can't we just put it in writing and get it ratified and get it to the public like we did with the white-collar contract? That's all we ask. Can we just get that moving on and expedited in a manner that's conducive to this whole process? I would.
Thank you.
That's my thank you, ladies and gentlemen, Mayor. Pleasure.
Warren Lester, 108.
Warren left.
Thank you. Ed Cameron, 201 Maple Avenue. Excuse me on the slaughter of these names here. Paul Workmeister, left the room. Paul Schapp, B.
Reside at 315 Second Avenue. Gentlemen, I'm here really to apply for a job for my daughter. She's been in Lawson Park since she's the age of...
Talk into the mic, please.
She's been attending Lawson Park ever since they were 3 and 4 years old. Now, I took pictures of Lawson Park. It's disgusting. The little children could go in front of this. This building here. Oh, yeah. Years. Rust all over. More pictures. More pictures. It's like that. Look at that. The children have to play around. You like that? You like the little boys eating West Park? This is all in Lawson Park. The conditions, little babies touch glass. Things that haven't worked for the kids getting. This is supposed to be opening up on the 27th. The condition of lighting. This is what I pay my taxes for? Are you crazy? Look at that. You're talking about money, and children have to go to the park like that?
Council President, may I, Mr. Schapp?
Can't hear you.
Are you able to download those pictures onto a computer?
Here you go, right to your city.
Sir? No, can you download them? Because what I'd like you to, if you could, would you, honey, would you be so kind as to download those for Dad and send them to us? We all have email drops on the website.
I was talking with the captain on Curtis and Washington.
Speaking to the mic, please.
Curtis and Washington Street on the, stopping at that intersection. Over the previous years, there's been a lot of accidents on this particular four-way stop. It needs speed bumps. I have an example of it out here. I was talking with the captain today. He suggested we look into
Where's the intersection?
Curtis and Washington, right? Curtis and Washington.
That was the first.
Would you, Paul, would you try to speak into the mic?
The same property was sitting the past 3 years. The same exact thing. There's one speed bump that should be there before the crosswalk, and they're going through it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's an intersection, very dangerous. Been accidents there.
5 minutes.
And that's it.
2 minutes and 16 seconds.
Finally, the 2 trees in front of the new library. There's 2 dead ones there. I suggest there be 2 Christmas trees put on in those positions of those trees. That's all.
2 minutes, thank you. Mr. Lindsay? Pat Hera?
Pat Hero, we Chief Road. This has got to be the war and peace of city council meetings. Almost 12:15 and we're still going strong. So anyway, first I'd like to commend both Jacqueline Williams and Archie Struzella for offering to give their service to the people of the city of Linden. While their efforts were frustrated, I guess, I just want to give them the words of the great person, Kinky Friedman, who said, "I didn't lose, I was just outscored." Okay, now, I'd like to also commend two council people for their use of social media. Councilwoman Michelle Yamakaitis and Councilman Rich Koziel. Councilwoman Yamakaitis suggested I come to the meeting tonight. And Councilman Koziel on his Facebook page said, every resident and homeowner must comply with the law without exception. I agree to that. At the next council meeting, ask a lot of questions. I do have a lot of questions to ask both Councilwoman Yamakaitis and Councilman Rich Koziel. How come you're not more compassionate toward people whose names happen to be appearing on this tax sale list? Why aren't you more concerned about why our property taxes are just so high that a lot of us cannot even afford to pay them, that we have to have our names on this list, and I identify with the people on this list? How come you don't understand that there might be reasons why people's names are on this list? Maybe there's somebody who could have laid off employees and kept the business going. But you know what? He decided not to do it, but decided to keep those employees going because he knew they had mouths to feed and families and took pay cuts. Why can't you identify with that person? How about a man who wants to improve his family's life by building homes? But you know what? The real estate market's kind of in the tank right now. And maybe he can't afford to pay those property taxes because they are so high. Why don't you have compassion on a man like that? There are a lot of stories behind why these people's names are on this list. Maybe it's as simple as just not remembering where you put your tax bill and forgetting about it. Sometimes people do that. How about all the senior citizens who have their Social Security frozen? Why don't you care about those people? You know what, maybe it's an employee who's as simple as not getting paid on a timely basis by their employer, and the employer owes that employee a lot of money, but they don't want to be unemployed because it's a lot harder to get a job when you're unemployed. Why don't you have compassion for people like that? Or health bills. There are a lot of reasons why people's names are on this tax roll. Why don't you show compassion? Why don't you do something? Why don't you care? It's a little bit easy. As somebody once said, why? Let me just do the quote right here. Let he who does not have relatives whose salaries are paid by property taxes cast the first stone. Let me tell you, Koziel family, maybe you could get a loan from your son if you had problems. You don't have problems paying your property tax. I guess it's easy. When your son's salary, your salary, and your wife's salary, that's not including your private sector job, taxes are $112,256. And the Yamakaitis family, $107,612 for the Yamakaitis family. That includes your job in Roselle. But I'm talking about property taxes paid the salary. Well, some of us don't get our taxes paid in property taxes. And so we're having a real hard time. I wish you show compassion on us. Because believe me or not, we're struggling out here. A lot of us are sacrificing dental visits, medical visits, pharmaceuticals, food. Okay? Maybe it's real easy when you're making a lot of money not to understand us. But believe me, I understand my people. My people are the names of the people on this list. I hope you remember us someday, and not just when you run for re-election. Thanks for your time.
Hamilton Bay. Yes.
I wish I could pay my taxes.
Tom Noble.
I work my ass off. I work every day. And
Virginia Malik.
I wish I could. You think I don't want to pay my taxes? I'd love to pay my taxes. I'll go to work every day. My brother's going without health insurance. I'm going without life insurance.
Virginia Malik.
I have,
Excuse me.
Virginia Malik.
You have the floor.
I had a lot of things to say, but the other thing I'll say is I have to admonish the City Council. What you were just going through on voting on this 207 and 208, that discussion should have been in caucus. And I don't know if people have some hidden agendas. I don't know if you have a hidden agenda while you were pushing for this, but that was a disgrace. And that's the only thing I have to say right now.
Thank you very much.
No. Council President, can I respond, please? Because, Virginia, I totally agree with you. Last night we tried to bring this up. That's why we're here at 12 o'clock. And
come to the mic.
It was a three-ring circus a couple of months ago. And people just don't learn. You know, you're up here, I say, hidden agendas while you're pushing for this. I mean, to me, it was like simple that Mrs. Zach said, there's really no money for this. So if you have any sessions, then you're going to be over the budget. Maybe I kind of misunderstood a few points here. But you're pushing for this, and you say that you have to have this because we have 141 cases and we're not having enough time to do all these cases and whatnot.
Thank you.
So you're pushing the agenda to have it passed, and and then other people were saying, well, maybe if we don't have it. Well, if we don't have it, then why are you trying to push this? It doesn't make sense. It was like a three-ring circus going around and around and around on here. You're like beating a dead horse. Absolutely ridiculous. I don't even want to hear this anymore because I've heard enough. I've heard enough.
You get it. Okay. Lisa Oman.
Good morning, everyone. It is morning. My name is Lisa Orman, 901 Summit Street. I wanted to just kind of like speak on a couple of things. Number one, resolutions and the unscrupulous way that they seem to creep up. When you have something that you cannot get past the right way, you come up with these crazy, unscrupulous, which means lacking moral integrity, ways of shoving it down the taxpayer's throat by coming in through the back door. Shame on all of you who do that. Shame on you. Second of all, anything that you want to shove down our throats should at least be typed out legitimately on an agenda so at least we can see the crap that we're digesting. Now, I wanted to really speak about item number 9 on the finance agenda about hiring police for the city of Linden. We seem to get a resolution shoved down our throats today that says, let's hire them from the rice list. Okay, for you people who are watching on television or who are going to watch this recording, what that rice list really means that we can hire police officers from any other community in the state, Essex County, Bergen County, and the fear that I have about that is that we may inadvertently hire a police officer who does not understand the culture of the city of Linden. They may come from a community that is not as diverse in terms of our senior population, our African American, our Hispanic population. We don't know what we're going to get off that rice list. Now, when we hire citizens that have grown up in the city of Linden, and I have been in Linden for 49 years, we have a comfort level of knowing that these potential police officers at least are woven into the fabric of our community. When I was a child, I could feel comfortable going to the supermarket, to the doctor's office, and anywhere in the city of Linden and meet police officers that were my neighbors. And if they weren't my neighbors, they were like Mr. Hopte. I was friends with his daughter. We went to school together. There was a comfort level of knowing that the police officers that walked our streets and patrolled our streets were our neighbors and truly our friends. We don't know what we're going to get when we hire from some rice list and they're going to just move into our community. It takes a long time to get woven into the fabric of our community. And I can say that because I moved into neighborhoods and it's difficult sometimes for me to fit in completely. Now, I also want to say that in the 49 years that I've been here, I've known quite a few of the police officers and I've had a comfort level. If I had a problem, one of them would pull up, I would know who they were. There was one day I kind of like glided into an intersection. I got pulled over and wasn't afraid because the officer that pulled up, I knew him. I had a robe on, my son was sick, I was going to pick up medicine, and he was like, "Hey, Miss Armstead, how are you?" Comfort level. Now, 40 plus years later, I'm actually afraid sometimes when I see an officer because I don't know who they are, and I've actually been talked to in a demeaning way by officers sometimes who just, like I said, are not part of our Linden community. They don't know me, they don't know the people in the area as well as they should, and they don't treat us like family like the police officers did of yesteryear. So what I'm trying to say is that we really need to think about not only the pros of hiring someone who may have experience that comes from the Rice List, but we need to think about the cons of it also, and about how they may not fit into the fabric of this wonderful community, Linden, that we live in. And when we think about hiring somebody from Linden who has waited on that list for 3 years, they know the people, they know our children, they know the troublemakers in our community, they know who's dealing drugs, they know the people on the streets that should be put off of the streets. They're just better suited for us. I'm a firm believer that we need to think about hiring those people that live in our area. Last but not least, we missed a wonderful opportunity to hire the first African-American officer here in the great city of Linden. And there's times in our lives, Ms. Cosby Hurling, as well as myself, where we have been pioneers being the strong, positive black women that we are, and we have made headway and made a mark in our communities through careers, etc. But we missed a wonderful opportunity. And I'm just gonna go back and just kind of like reminisce on a time where applications went in for jobs, secretary jobs. You know, we wanted to get an opportunity. And so many times we got passed up. So many times somebody from that Rice List got called to substitute and to fill in a position before us. We cannot ever forget where we came from and how painful those type of how painful those situations are for us. And we need to be able to open up our eyes and realize that we have an opportunity to do something wonderful and right for the city of Linden. We step up to the plate and we do so because we know how it feels when it gets done to us. Thank you.
20 seconds. Thank you. Kennel Charles?
He left. That was his daughter who didn't get the job.
Gwendolyn Swan? Jacqueline Williams?
Thank you, Council President. Before I begin, I'd just like to apologize to those of you who may not have a college degree about my comment that I made earlier. I just have very little tolerance for ignorance. And unfortunately, there are some people who may have a college degree that may be just as ignorant. Those of you, I know you've served our community very well. So I do apologize about that comment that I made to you. I would like to thank everyone who helped on my campaign. I'm not going to go through the list of names because it is very late and I'm tired. So those of you who did help, members of the Linden Citizens Association, I love you and thank you for supporting me and backing me. I would like to thank the following council people for their endorsement and support: Councilman Sheehy, Councilman Frazier, Councilman Armstead, Council President Moore, and Mayor Gabunka. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. You are amongst the most honorable men of this city council. And I was very much honored to have you on my side. I would also like to say to the people who are in my corner, although I lost the race for the 8th Ward City Council, you did not lose a leader. I believe that under the circumstances, with all the lying and the buying of votes that went on, we did an exceptionally well job and will do an even better job next time. Due to the time constraints, well, I wasn't going to touch on this, but I think I am now, because I'm just so disgusted by what has happened and by what is happening. And I have to say to Rashana Cosby Hurling that you are amongst the most most worst Negro leader.
I'm gonna need her to be removed, please, Chief.
Ever
I need her to be
seen
removed.
in my
Point
I never seen anything
You
like
should
this.
stop speaking.
And I,
Point-
you,
point
should
of order,
be
Council
removed.
President.
I have a right to say
The
what
Speaker
I
has the
want
floor.
to
That's
say.
a point of order.
Point
She should
of
be
order,
removed from this
Councilman.
council.
I
Point of order. There's a policy, a part of our rules, you cannot directly attack a council
Councilman
person.
Rashana Cosby Hurling had made
Point of order,
a
Councilman.
comment about reaching out to a Board of Education member.
Motion to close meeting.
And
Second.
Take the roll call, please.
I declined this meeting. First of all, because she was not woman enough
2
to
minutes
call
and
me.
38 seconds.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't even
You were not woman enough
Motion
to call
to
me.
close
I never
this
even
meeting.
received a verbal
Second.
or written invitation from you.
It was
And
second.
I,
Thank you.
excuse me, was too busy pulling the daggers out of my back that I believe.
I'm not holding
no,
up.
you need to-
She has to be removed. She has to be removed because of that comment. You agree with that comment?
Rich, Rich.
The rules say no derogatory.
It says no derogatory, that's in our rules.
The following council meetings are as follows. The council conference meeting Monday, July 18, 2011 at 6 p.m. in the council conference room, City Hall, 301 Northwood Avenue. Council conference meeting prior to the council meeting Tuesday, July 19, 2011 at 6 p.m. in the council conference room, City Hall, 301 Wood Avenue. Council meeting July 19th, 2011 at 7 p.m. in the council chambers, City Hall, 301 Northwood Avenue. I ask for a motion to adjourn. Second? Second?
Mr. Colvin?
Yes.
Cozio? Brown?
Yes.
Armstead? Crosby Hurling?
Yes.
Sadowski? Sheehy?
Yes.
Yemakaitis? Frazier?
Yes.
Purcell? Mr.
Yes.
Moore?
I know, right?
Yeah.